Can you explain the just basics to your approach to introducing solids? So it sounds like you want the child to take the lead. So just tell us a little bit about the basics to your approach.
Absolutely. So, when it comes to most things in child development, we let our kids figure it out on their own. We give them the environment to lay on the ground. We put toys on the side so they're motivated to roll. We put toys in strategic places to encourage them to figure out how to sit up. We don't make them sit or make them play or make them hold on to objects. We let them lead their development every step of the way. But then feeding comes around, and historically, parents have wanted to take control of this, hold the spoon, put the food in the baby's mouth, encourage them to eat. And if we were to dive into the research on why this happens, at the end of the day, it was a marketing. It was a marketing situation. There were Baby food is a new thing. It's only been around since the early 1900s. And baby food is not something that our ancestors, thousands of years ago,
Yeah.
used to have little jars of baby food. Um, but when baby food became a product, it obviously flew off the shelves because of its convenience. It helped at the time women get out of the kitchen. It helped women have other time in their life to do things with their babies, with their families. And convenience absolutely has its place. But if we think about how babies learn to eat, sucking puree off a spoon does not develop chewing skills. What does develop chewing skills is using reflexes to practice these motor patterns over and over and over again. So in the same way, a baby has a reflex in their hand called their palmar reflex. You touch their hand and they grab your finger, which of course we all feel like our babies are holding our hands, but it is also a reflex. That reflex is there to help them learn to grab things. We also have reflexes to help us build chewing skills. So those reflexes are the transverse tongue, which moves your tongue to the side, and the phasic bite, which moves our jaw up and down. In order to make those reflexes do those movements over and over again, they have to be touched, they have to be stimulated. Those reflexes are stimulated by touching the side of the tongue and the gums. Now, if you were to think about putting puree on a spoon and giving it to you or giving it to a baby, they're not touching the side of their tongue and they're not touching their gums. They're just kind of slurping that puree off the spoon. It's a very similar motor pattern to what they're doing from a bottle or the breast.
Right.
So we want to help encourage the baby to actually touch those sides of the mouth where those reflexes are needed so they can practice those movements over and over and over again. The easiest way to do that is with finger food. But even if that doesn't feel comfortable to you, you can still achieve that by letting your baby feed themselves. So not only does that stimulate the reflexes we want to help them build skill, it also gives them the lead, lets them take control, and lets them do it at a pace that feels right for them. So our approach, no matter what, is to help baby take the lead with their feeding from their first meal. If you're feeling like purees are the way you want to go, that could mean putting the food all over their table so they can dip their hands in and put their hands in their mouth. Because if they put their hands in their mouth, they're likely going to go to the side, touch the sides of the tongue, get the tongue moving a little bit more. They'll probably do a little bit more biting. You can also fill up a spoon with a puree or even yogurt, guacamole, things that you love too, that you are potentially eating yourselves. Hand that spoon over and let baby go to town. Same thing, the spoon's most likely going to go in on the side. They're going to munch on it a little bit. They're going to move their tongue over to get the food. They're still practicing those skills of moving the tongue and the jaw in a way that they need to build their chewing skills. And they know, oh, I get to do this. I get to be in control of this. This is my activity that I get to do. And when I'm done, I can communicate that I'm done and we can end the activity. Now, if you're feeling like you want to skip the pureed food altogether, you can start with whatever kind of finger food feels fun to you. I tend to recommend to people to pick something that feels culturally relevant or important to your family. My older daughter's first food was pineapple because we were in the middle of the pandemic and I felt very isolated and alone, and I was working in the hospital and it was obviously scary and we just didn't really know what was going on. And the first time I felt her move, I was eating pineapple.
Huh.
And it kind of was that first moment of like normal pregnancy feeling for me. A lot of my prenatal visits were video visits, and I wasn't getting to go to all the prenatal classes that everybody gets to talk. It just wasn't the same experience for good reason, of course. But that was my first moment of feeling like, wow, this is what this is supposed to feel like. My husband and I had also gotten married in Hawaii. My family had lived there for a long time. So it just kind of felt like this really cool intersection of things that were important to our current life and my family's history. And so her first food was pineapple.
Which already I'm thinking to myself, that seems odd. It's kind of hard. It wouldn't be easy to chew. I have so many questions about this.
So it was a long, thin strip of pineapple, because a 6-month-old, in order for them to pick something up, it needs to be relatively big. Okay. They don't have the ability to use their fingers to pick up small stuff just yet. That tends to show up closer to 9 months of age. And so it was a nice big strip of soft, ripe pineapple, and she could pick it up with her hand and bring it to her mouth and just kind of munch and suck on it. Now, keep in mind, she wasn't putting it in her mouth to eat. She wasn't putting it in her mouth to fill her belly. She was putting it in her mouth to learn about food. Mm-hmm. And the videos we have of her are so funny, because it was a little sour and a little sweet. And of course, the juice kind of spurted out of her mouth a couple times, and it shocked her. And what we were doing there was sharing a food. I was eating the same thing. She was practicing moving her gums or moving her tongue around and chomping with her gums. She participated for 5 or 6 minutes, and then we took videos and photos and laughed and cleaned up and moved on with our day.